All right, let's talk about AI. Today, we're going to tackle a huge question, one that sits right where philosophy and the future collide. Can a machine, a bunch of code, ever actually be good? Let's dive into this wild world of AI and virtue.
And to kick things off, let's just throw this out there. Is it possible for a machine, an AI that doesn't have emotions like jealousy or greed, to actually become more virtuous than a human being? It's a crazy thought, right? But it's the perfect frame for our whole conversation.
So, before we can even begin to answer that, we have to get on the same page. For our first section, we need to ask a much older question. What in the world is virtue anyway? We're going to look at this through the lens of something called virtue ethics. The core idea here is that being a good person is kind of like learning to play an instrument. You can read all the rule books you want, but you only get good by practicing until playing the right notes becomes second nature, part of your character. Virtue ethics says morality is the same way. It's not just about the rules you follow. It's about the kind of person you are.
So what does a virtuous character even look like? Well, philosophers usually point to things like honesty, courage, compassion. You see them here. But, and this is super important, these aren't just one-off actions. They're stable traits. A courageous person doesn't just do one brave thing. They are by nature a brave person. That distinction is absolutely key for everything that follows.
Okay, let's move on and see how this all connects. Now that we have a basic idea of what virtue is, we can finally apply it to our big question. Can an AI actually be good in this deep, character-based way?
And, well, this is where we hit our first and maybe biggest roadblock. An AI doesn't have life experiences. It doesn't feel empathy or regret. It just crunches insane amounts of data and calculates the best possible outcome based on whatever it was programmed to do. It can mimic understanding, sure, but does it actually understand? Probably not.
This slide just lays it all out, plain and simple. Human morality? It grows out of this messy, complicated mix of life experience, empathy, and our own internal drives over a whole lifetime. But AI morality? It's programmed. It's all about data and logic, driven by the goals that we give it. They might end up making the same choice, but the way they get there, they're just worlds apart.
So this really brings us to the heart of the matter. An AI can be programmed to act compassionately, right? Like it could calculate that it should prioritize rescuing the most vulnerable people in a disaster. But can a line of code, an algorithm, ever truly understand what compassion feels like? The jury is definitely still out on that one.
Okay, so this is where things take a bit of a turn and get a little darker. Because when we try to code morality into these systems, we run into some really serious dangers. This is where all the theory crashes into a very messy reality. And the crucial thing to get here is that the main worry isn't some evil, Skynet-style AI that wants to destroy humanity. No, the much more immediate, much more realistic danger is creating an AI that accidentally reflects the very worst parts of us. The biggest risk isn't malice, it's bias. So how does that even happen? Well, it's actually a pretty simple and kind of scary process. Step 1. The AI swallows huge amounts of human data, books, news articles, you name it. And that data, of course, is full of all our historical and societal biases. Step 2. The AI looks at all this flawed data and learns the patterns as if they're the absolute truth. And the result? Step 3. The AI starts making decisions that not only repeat our biases, but can actually make them even worse. There's this quote that just sums it up perfectly. If you train an AI on the sum total of human knowledge, you have to accept that it's going to learn everything. Our greatest acts of kindness and wisdom, but also our most shameful flaws and ugliest prejudices. You can't have one without the other. It's a package deal. So, where does all this leave us? For our final section, let's take a look at what this really means for our future. A future where we are going to be more and more tangled up with artificial intelligence. You know, one of the most fascinating ideas to come out of this whole challenge is the idea of AI as a moral mirror. Think about it. In the process of trying to teach a machine how to be fair and just and compassionate, we are forced to get really clear about what those words mean to us. We have to define our own values in a way we've never had to before. Building ethical AI forces us to take a long, hard look at ourselves. And believe me, this isn't just some academic thought exercise. The stakes could not be higher. I mean, just look at this chart. AI is already making huge decisions in finance, in healthcare, even in our justice system. The ethical code we write for these machines will have a massive, real-world impact on millions of lives.
And that brings us to what might be the most important takeaway of all. The huge challenge of building an ethical AI, it isn't really about needing more processing power or smarter algorithms. The hardest part, the real problem, is us agreeing on what ethical even means in the first place. The challenge isn't technical, it's human.
So, I'll leave you with one final thought to chew on. If we ever actually pull it off, if we create a truly virtuous AI, one that's consistently more fair and more compassionate than we are, what then? If we have to live and work alongside it, will we be forced to rise to its level? Will we have to become more virtuous ourselves? That's a question we're all going to be answering together, one line of code at a time.